I don't know about you, but at some point I'm going to run out of space trying to store all my holiday decor, especially fall and Christmas, because those are my favorite. Hi, my name is Leslie and welcome to Happy Tuesday, where we do crafts and DIYs and home decor and more. And today we are actually going to be making 6 DIY projects that are easily transformable from fall to Christmas. So let's get started.
All right, let's get started with project number 1, and here is the flip side. We're going to need some wood rounds, and you can buy these at Dollar Tree occasionally. I bought these at Hobby Lobby, and you're going to pick 3 that are going to be a good size for you for the pumpkin stack as well as the snowman, and you're going to need 1 for the base. So we're going to start by painting one side of each of these wood rounds in pumpkin colored chalk paint by Waverly, and then we are going to let that dry and start making the snowman's hat. I just used some scrap black cardstock that I had from my stash, and I am cutting a piece that is about the size of a top hat, and then I will use some craft glue that I bought at Dollar Tree, and I am going to glue these 2 pieces together and then use some clips so that it stays together while it dries. This is Eileen's craft glue. I believe I already said I bought this at Dollar Tree. And then we are going to measure a piece for the top. I just used a pen to draw a circle around and cut that out. And then I will glue that to the top. And then after we do that, we are going to measure a piece for the bottom. Now I am going to use a cork, actually half a cork, as the stem for the pumpkin, and I am going to use that as the place for the hat to sit when it's the snowman on the other side. So I'm cutting the big circle out, and then I am going to cut a small circle out of the center so that I can fit it on top of that cork and it will be secure. So gluing that on and getting that all set, and then I'm going to decorate up the hat a little bit with a small little pine cone and some little berries that I pulled off a pick that I bought last year on clearance from Michael's. I believe it was Michael's. It might have been Hobby Lobby. And once we get that all glued on, then we will move on to the next bit. And now we are going to get a piece of ribbon. This came off a roll that I bought at Dollar Tree last year. And we're going to fashion a little scarf out of that. And then we will set the hat and the scarf aside so that we can get to painting on the other side of these wood rounds. I'm using white chalk paint by Folk Art, I believe this is. And I am going to give each of those 3 wood rounds a nice little coat. One thing I love about chalk paint is that on most surfaces it doesn't take more than 1 coat of paint. Now I bought this stem at Dollar Tree, and I'm going to pull off all these little pieces so that can be used for decor on the pumpkin side. Now I have paint markers that I'm using to draw the buttons and the eyes and the mouth and the nose. But if you don't have paint markers, you can just use regular chalk paint or regular acrylic paint and paint on the eyes and the mouth and the nose and the buttons. Now, when you get ready to glue all these pieces together, you're going to want to make sure that you have the pumpkin going in the right direction. So I'm going to get my buttons pushed on, and then I'm going to flip these over and get some contouring using, let's see, I believe it was antique wax. Now I'm going to use Surebonder's wood hot glue to glue this together. I used the bottom base. There was a piece that the bark was missing, and so that made the perfect place. And then when I get ready to set the second piece, I want to make sure the buttons are headed in the right direction. And I get the third piece on there and then glue on that cork, half cork, that I painted brown with truffle paint by Waverly. And then I've got everything put together. Now to decorate this, I am putting on my little hat on that cork and then wrapping his little scarf around, and that becomes the snowman side. And then I have a little scrap of green for the faux leaves and some of those fall leaves. And then I'm going to take some of this pitberry garland and wrap some little tendrils around, and that'll be the decor for the pumpkin stack side. And then when you want to switch it out from one to the other, you just change out the accessories, but it's all together, all in one. All right, let's jump off into project number 2 and the flip side. So we have this rolling pin thingy I bought from Dollar Tree, and I believe I showed you this last week. We're going to remove the sticker and the raffia piece, and then we've got a little cutout of pumpkins from this scrap piece of scrapbook paper. I created 2 pieces on my Cricut for the words for either side, and we've got a little snowflake ornament that I bought at Dollar Tree last year that we're going to be using for the winter side. I'm going to use this truffle colored paint by Waverly for the perimeter and the rolling pin handles so that it matches either side. And once we get that all done, we're going to set that down and let that dry. And I am going to be using this acrylic shimmery paint to do the falling leaves side. That will be my fall side. Now, I had to do probably 5 or 6 coats of this paint, and had I to do it all over again, I'd have probably just used chalk paint and then maybe put the shimmery color on top. So I'm going to, while that dries, I'm going to start weeding out my Hello Pumpkin and my Let It Snow. Now I measured this all off camera and created these little pieces. And I measured the Hello Pumpkin one perfectly, but as you'll see later, I did not measure the Let It Snow one in the right way, and it created me to have to rethink my project. So I'm using some of that contact paper from Dollar Tree, and you can reuse it. As you'll see, I stuck it on the Let It Snow side, and I'm going to use some of this matte Mod Podge to glue this little pumpkin decor piece on there, and then I use the Mod Podge on the other side as well to make sure that it stayed nice and glued. Here is a pool colored Waverly chalk paint that I'm going to use for the Let It Snow side, and I'm going to give it a good coverage all the way around. Again, because it's chalk paint, it usually only requires 1 or 2 coats, and then you've got good coverage. And once I've got that done, I'm going to try to figure out how to organize the Let It Snow in a way that fits along with that snowflake, even though I didn't quite measure it out. And I don't know if I actually showed this on camera, but I stuck that down, and then I believe I picked up the letters and moved it again so that I'd had room for that snowflake. And once I got the snowflake positioned on there, I realized that that snowflake was a little bit too big, and so I pulled this other snowflake ornament that I believe I bought at Walmart out, and I cut off the little ornament side so that it would fit, and then I glued that on, and then I decided it still needed something, and so I created some snowflakes on my Cricut, and we are going to stick those on. Now over to the right, you'll see I made a little bow out of some ribbon I bought at Dollar Tree. And for when it's on the Let It Snow side, you can have the bow facing that direction. And when it's on the fall side, you can just roll that bow around to face the front. And then I used some of that matte Mod Podge to tone down the glossy part of that vinyl. And then I sprinkled a little bit of glitter on it just to give it a little bit of final snow touch. And here we are. Hello Pumpkin on one side and Let It Snow on the other. Let's skip right into project number 3, and here is the flip side, and this is one of my favorite projects on this video. The last one is the other one of my favorites, and so don't miss those. You're going to need a container to place the water beads in. You're going to need 5 to 6 cups of water for each tablespoon of water beads that you use, and you can buy these water beads on Amazon. That's where I bought my package. You'll see it comes with 60,000 water beads in that little package, and you're going to need to wait. So here is what it looks like 30 minutes later, but if you give it the full 5 to 6 hours that it requires to fully inflate those beads, this is what you're going to end up with. Now I put 6 cups of water, but I probably could have gotten away with 5.5. And here are the items you're going to need: these glass cylinders from Dollar Tree and some of these plastic decor pieces. I bought some from Dollar Tree, but I believe the bigger package from Hobby Lobby is probably a better buy. And then you're going to need a floating candle. Now you're going to take some of those water beads and put in the bottom, and then add in some of your plastic pieces and just layer those kind of like a lasagna. A little bit of water beads, a little bit of decor, a little bit of water beads, a little bit of decor, until you get almost to the top. Now you don't want to get all the way to the top because you're going to fill this with water, and that's how this works. And I'll show you towards the end of the video exactly what it looks like when you add the water in so that you can see that. So we're going to added a few more, too many, I think. And here it is, what it looks like once you've added the water. And it looks like all those pieces are just suspended in there. And to change this out from fall to Christmas, you're just going to dump it out back into the bowl and scoop out all the pieces that you put in there. And then we're going to do the same. Now you'll notice it's got a lot of extra water in there, so just be noteworthy of that, I guess. As you add in the pieces. Now you'll get to see my little faux pas here in a minute. One of the things that I learned in doing this is that you can't have items that are not heavy enough to stay where they're at. If they are too light, they will float and come to the top. So get ready to watch it. I'm going to put those little ornament pieces in, and I'm going to add in more water beads and shove those down there, and then add in my water, and oopsies, here they come, floating right to the top. So I'm going to take those out, and I decided to add a couple of little beads and little pine cones, and decorate it in another fashion. So just want to make sure that whatever pieces you pick, those plastic pieces were perfect for the fall one. Whatever plastic pieces or whatever pieces you pick, they're heavy enough to stay wherever they're located. So here's it all filled up with the water beads, and then watch. We're going to add the water and the transformation will occur. Now these water beads are good for anywhere from 3 to 24 months, depending on what you've done with them. Now, after I got finished using all these, I just stuck them in a colander and rinsed them all off and stuck them in a Ziploc bag, and they will sit there. So here's the winter one with the nice little candle on it, and there's your fall one.
If you made it this far in the video, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and click the bell so that you'll be notified every time a new video comes out. Please stay till the end. I'll be giving you some hints on what things you'll need to get for next week's video.
Moving on into project number 4 and the flip side, and this is one I also thought turned out super cute. So I'm going to use this little wooden block sign that I bought at Hobby Lobby last year on clearance. I'm going to be using some Hobby Lobby round ornaments that I bought on clearance, and some wood letters, and various colors of paint here to make the Santa ornaments and the pumpkin on the other side. And first we are going to be taking off the ribbons and using some of that Dollar Tree spackle to fill in the holes. And then once we paint this all over, then we are not going to be able to see those holes anymore. So we're going to fill those in, and then while those are drying, we are going to move on into painting this Where Troubles Melt into Lemon Drops, part of the sign. I believe I bought this for a couple bucks when it was on clearance. And as you can see, that black chalk paint, and this is from Folk Art, does a really good job in one coat covering up that sign. I'm also going to be using some of those tumbling tower blocks. I picked 4 and I painted those black as well, because those are going to be used to keep the ornaments up in a standing frame on this, in a standing fashion on this frame. And now we are going to paint the ornament pieces this crimson color by Waverly, and give them each a nice good coat. And then we are going to move on to painting the flip side of those. We're going to use that pumpkin color by Waverly, and we are going to give this side a nice little coat of that pumpkin so we can turn these into pumpkins. Now the letters that I've chose are Ho 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 for the ornament side and Autumn for the pumpkin side. And I'm going to show you a cute little trick in a minute when you get ready to paint those letters. So we're going to leave a piece for the stem because we're going to go back in and paint that truffle colored. So here's the little tip. If you take some painter's tape and you put your letters onto the painter's tape, then when you paint them, you're not getting paint all over your fingers, which you know I just love to do. So I'm going to paint the Ho 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 ones in this black paint by Folk Art. It's chalk paint. Give it all a nice little coat all the way around and inside and out, so that everything is fully covered. And then the autumn words, we're going to use that truffle color by Waverly. And we are going to give those a nice good coat. And once we're done giving those a really good coat of paint, then we are going to move on to painting the stems on each of those pumpkins with this same truffle chalk paint by Waverly. After we finish this, we are going to flip those over, and we are going to give the red side of the ornaments and the little top of the ornament a Craft Smart acrylic paint in the color silver. Now, as I said before, I don't think that acrylic paint gives the same coverage as chalk paint, and it actually took, I don't know, 3 or 4 layers of paint before I was personally satisfied with the color of these. And then I'm going to take out some of my paint markers, and I'm going to figure out where my letters are going and where that little piece to support it is going. And I'm going to make some little Santa belts. Now, normally a Santa belt might be black with a little buckle, but I decided to make mine white and give it more of that fur kind of look. And then we'll create a black and gold buckle, also using those paint markers. And then I'm going to fill in everything using my tinier brushes and some of that chalk paint by Folk Art. White for the little buckle part, actually the belt part, and then I'm going to use black for the buckle part. And then I'll go back in with that gold paint marker and give the buckle a little outline and complete these little Santa belts. I thought they turned out so cute. Now, once I get done with all of this, I'm going to move into decorating our pumpkins, and I'm going to be using antique wax by Waverly. One of the cool things I love about doing these kinds of crafts is that as you go, you can kind of add a little bit more touches here and there. And you'll notice once I get the letters onto those pumpkins, I decided they needed just a little bit something extra. And I'm going to use my white paint marker and give it a little bit of stitching, which I think turned out super cute. And then once I got the Ho 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 side done, I decided it needed a little bit of stitching too, so get ready to see that. After I've got all the shading done, I'm going to pull out my letters and just see what they're going to look like on these pumpkins. I'm going to add that little bit of stitching, and then I am going to glue the letters onto the pumpkins. Once they are glued on, then I will organize the pumpkins in the order they need to go, and then I'm going to overlap them. Every other pumpkin will be on the top or on the bottom, and that way, measured up against this sign, we can glue those together, making sure that they stand up the way they should, and then we are going to flip it over and do the ho 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 side. That way we don't have those in the wrong order. Now it's time to assemble our little track. Since the ornaments are not very thick on the bottom, I didn't know how they would stand up on this plaque. So we are using these tumbling tower pieces as the little track for them to fit inside and make sure it all stays. And here we are, fall and Christmas. Project number 5 is a quick and easy one, and we are going to be making our own stencils for this one. So I found this welcome Wi-Fi password standing sign at Dollar Tree, and we're going to use some tumbling tower blocks, some vinyl, some chalk paint, and this little set of chalk paints that I bought on Amazon for our stencil. So the first thing we're going to do is we are going to take this white chalk paint by Folk Art, and we are going to paint the entire exterior of this sign. And then we are going to take some of the tumbling tower blocks and we're going to paint them with the antique wax by Waverly. And of course, you know I love to put that on with a baby wipe. And then while all that dries, we are going to take our stencil apart. Now, when you create a stencil on vinyl, instead of leaving the things that you would normally put on, those are the things that you're going to weed out. So we're weeding out all the letters and all the insides of everything so that we can make a stencil. And the other side, we did a little Santa with some reindeer and Believe with some snowflakes. So we are going to weed that out too so that we have that sign ready to be stenciled on as well. We are going to transfer this on using our contact paper, and then we're going to use that chalk paste in this little applicator, and we're going to put that everywhere that the stencil is open so that we can get this design right on our piece. Now I used red for most of it and then just used this little yellow color for the stars that I put up in the sky. And if you want this design, I made it public on my Cricut design space. Now we're going to take off all the negative pieces and we are going to glue our tumbling tower blocks on as kind of a frame around this, and then this side will be done. And we are going to move over to the other side. It says gather together and give thanks, and we're going to use the green chalk paste for the words and then make the leaves yellow and red and make this little pumpkin orange using actually I used the Waverly chalk paint to make the pumpkin orange because I didn't have an orange chalk paste in this package that I got from Amazon. And once we get that done, then we are going to take off all our vinyl. Now I did take off the vinyl while it was wet so that we didn't leave any yucky parts on there. And but you need to be careful because as you're taking it off wet, you don't want to get paint on your hands and then leave paint on the white. Now if I had this to do over again, I probably would have just spray painted the sign white instead of using the chalk paint to paint it. I did have to go in and do a little bit of touch up with it. As you'll see down in the corner by the S, I got a little bit of red paint down there from touching that leaf in the top and then getting it down there in the bottom. And here we are, front and back. And you have your fall side and your Christmas side. And finally, project number 6, and if I had to pick only one favorite from this video, this would be it. So we are going to start with 2 of those pumpkin forms from Dollar Tree and one of these hanging wooden plank pieces, and I'm going to mark it where we need to cut it because we only want it to go a little ways outside of the pumpkin forms. And we are going to create a bottom for the pumpkin forms where all our fall and Christmas decor can sit. So I'm going to use my miter box to cut off this piece, and then I'm going to sand the edge. Now, if you'll notice, it split a little bit at the bottom when I cut it. So I am going to use some of this super glue, wood glue from the Dollar Tree, and I am going to tack that back down, that little piece, so that it's flush and flat. And then I'm going to take some of this Waverly antique wax and one of my baby wipes, and I am going to spread the antique wax on the top and the bottom and all around the edges to give this a nice stained look. Now, I love the antique wax because it dries quicker and you don't have the odor of normal stains, but you can make it as dark or as light as you like depending on how long you leave it on and how much you put on. So I love that about the antique wax. And then we are going to take some pipe cleaners and we are going to glue them along the inside of this piece, and then I'm going to take my electric staple gun and I'm going to add some staples so that they're nice and secure and that it won't fall apart. Now we are going to take each one of those pipe cleaners and we're going to wrap it around the outside edge of that pumpkin form so that everything is nice and secure and we have an open space with which to put our decor. So I'm going to start with the fall decor, and I have a bunch of florals from Dollar Tree. I'm going to start with some of these white leaves, and I didn't cut anything apart. I just set it in there with the ends facing each other and put it in so that it was nice and full and decorated in the way I liked it. And then I'm going to take a pipe cleaner or a Chanel stem, whatever you want to call it, and I am going to wrap it around the center to keep it all together. That way when I pull it out, it comes out essentially in one piece, and that makes it very easy to change out the fall decor for the winter decor. So here I am wrapping that Chanel stem around the middle and fluffing it all out. And then I am going to be adding in a few more florals. I've got some more of these leaves with the pumpkins attached to them. And then I've got some fluffy pumpkins, and I'm just going to add in some different textures. So I have this sweater pumpkin, and then I've got some of those raffia twine type of pumpkins over there to the side. I'm going to cut those off their stems, and I'm going to add in some extra flowers, some of these orange daisy looking things, and then I think I've got some white daisies, and I'm just going to keep adding it until it's as fluffy as I would like to see it, and that it is designed in a way that matches with my decor. And once I get that all put together, then I am going to take the 2 pieces at the top that are the stem, and I'm going to kind of overlap them so that it kind of locks them into place. And once I've done that, then I'm going to take some of this nautical rope and I'm going to wrap it around to make the stem of my pumpkin. And now on to bow making. Now, I have had to learn to make bows just like everybody else, and I've watched lots of YouTube videos of lots of different creators, and this is a bow that I thought was nice and fluffy. It had lots of different colors of ribbons in it that matched with my decor. And so I'm going to be using 3 different 2.5-inch wired ribbons and 3 different 1.5-inch wired ribbons. And I'm going to cut the 2.5-inch ribbons to 26 inches each. And then I'm going to cut the 1.5-inch ribbons to 24 inches each. And then I'm going to dovetail the ends of all of the ribbons, and then I'm going to bunch them up together with these 2.5-inch ribbons. I'm going to bunch it at 6 inches, and then I'm going to crisscross those over. And then once I get the ends in place where I want them, then I am going to hold this together with a chenille stem. And I'm going to do that for each of the bundles as I build this bow. So we'll take the next bundle of 2 and we'll get those at the 6 inches as well. That leaves us a 7-inch tail, and then we're going to twist those ends around so that it makes them even across both sides. And once we get those done with the 2.5-inch bows, then we are going to add in the 1.5-inch ribbons, and we're going to measure these off at 5 to 5.5 inches. And then we are going to take that chenille stem that is holding all of this bunch together, and we're going to wrap it around the top of this pumpkin, and there we have our beautiful centerpiece for fall. You're going to have to wait till the very end to see the reveal, but now we're going to take it apart and transform it from fall to Christmas by taking off that bow and then removing the nautical rope and unhooking that stem and taking out all the floral pieces for fall. And then we are going to start with this white chamois from Dollar Tree to make kind of a Christmas snow kind of look in the bottom of this. And we're going to transform this pumpkin from a pumpkin into an ornament. And we are going to be using all of the Christmas picks. Now, I bought some of these at Dollar Tree last year, and I bought some of these at Hobby Lobby on clearance last year, but I bought some of these at Hobby Lobby this year where they're 50% off, and they still turned out super cheap. So I'm just going to layer all these pieces in, the greens and the whites and the reds, until I get it all fluffy and looking the way I want. And then I've got some pine cone picks that I'm going to add in there. And then I purchased a little joy word at Hobby Lobby this year. I think it cost me $3. And I found some little birds that I had in my stash from last year, and I'm going to add those in. And then we'll make a winter bow or Christmas bow the same way we made that fall bow, using the 2.5-inch and 1.5-inch ribbons. Of course, wired ribbon works best. And then we are going to be compiling it in exactly the same way. So here are the birds that we're going to add in. To make the ornament top, I'm going to flip those 2 pieces over together, and then I'm going to take this silver ribbon to make it look like an ornament topper. Now, I want you to watch as I put this bow together. I'm again going to cut out all the pieces just like I did before, but that chenille stem, I'm going to hold the first two pieces together, and then when I get ready to put the next 2 pieces in, I'm just going to untie the chenille stem, slide it out, and wrap it around all 4 pieces. Now, it does require that you hold it all together, and as the bow gets thicker, it does become a little bit more challenging to hold it all together, but I've got faith in you guys, and I know you can do it. I learned it. You can too. So here we are, just going to measure it out 6 inches, wrap that chenille stem around, and then twist the bow around. Now you want to make sure that you twist those ends so that you see the good side up. Otherwise, you're going to be left with kind of a funky looking bow with bad sides and good sides. Now, these ribbons are easier to tell what the good side is because it's obviously printed. On some of those that it looks like it's the same on both sides, it's not as easy to recognize which side is the good side and which side is the bad side. Finish fluffing that bow out, then you're going to add it onto the top and get ready for the reveal. Now on this Christmas one, I added some lights in that I bought on Amazon, and it gives it that nice little Christmas glow. Happy holidays, y'all.
Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I really enjoyed our time together. As I told you earlier in the video, if you stay till the end, I was going to give you a couple of hints on what we're going to be doing next week. So, while you're out and about, keep your eyes peeled for a pot holder. Red is a great color. Make sure it has the pocket. You're also going to want to kind of keep your eyes out for these little utensils. Maybe pick up a cookie mix or two. How about some storage items? These are some nice options from Dollar Tree. Or I found this really cute storage jar, also at Dollar Tree. And if you happen to be at Hobby Lobby, maybe find this little pie piece. It's a really cute piece. If you know what we're going to be doing next week, write it in the comments below, and I'll let you know if you're right. But until next week, make it a great day, and Happy Tuesday!